this video, I will show you how to clean and replace the often neglected oil pump pickup screen on your Ducati Panigale Twin. And I'll walk you through each step of the process, including removal of the exhaust, changing the engine oil and filter, dropping the oil pan, installing the new pickup screen, and cleaning and sealing the oil sump.
That's a lot of slop.
This process can be applied to the 899, 1199, 1299, 959, and the V2, and should be performed every 15,000 miles to prevent engine damage. I've also included chapter titles in the scroll bar if you want to jump ahead.
So there you go, bro.
Be alert. I might just throw a random fry in the middle. Oh, who's faster? That was good.
Oil pump pickup screen or mesh, not to be confused with this, which is your oil filter cartridge. This you're going to change every 7,500 miles. This you're going to clean out every 15,000. So it's basically every other oil change. This is why Panigales fail. They fail around 40,000 miles because people don't clean these. Not many people know that. As a result, this gums up with junk on the mesh. It limits oil flow through the lubrication system, and you get engine failure, whether it's the V4 or the twins, the L2. Okay, so if you look at your owner's manual, scheduled maintenance chart. It's the US, so we're going to go by miles. Change oil and filter. 600 miles, 7,500 miles, 15,000 miles, 22,500, 30,000 miles. It stops there, right? But then you see here, clean engine oil mesh filter at intake. This is not the air intake. This is the intake at the oil pump in the oil pan. And that's supposed to be done at 15,000 miles and 30,000. I've got 44,000. Last time I did this was at 30,000. So to change this is pretty easy. You get direct access to this, pop the cover off, swap it out with a new one. To get to this, you have to drop the oil pan. And to do that, you've got to remove the exhaust. And you're going to have to remove the bracket that holds the radiators. That thing is a pain in the ass. In fact, I've done my own valve adjustment on this bike, and the worst part was getting that radiator bracket off. So I'm going to walk you through every step of how to do this, and we're going to start with taking off these socket button head cap screws that are on the bodywork. So one thing that does make life easy is one of these pit bull stands. You can get them at Cycle Gear, and they have various size pins for different bikes. Drop in the pin, bang. Elevates the rear end. Alright, so first step, we're going to remove the side fairings on both sides, both upper and lower. There are 9 socket button head cap screws that retain the fairings. There's these 4. There's one here. There's one here. There's one underneath that's shared, and there's one under here on both sides. There's one here. And then you've got a little rivet that's right here. We're going to pop that out. 2013 1199 Panigale S. Ghetto edition. Here we are in beautiful LA. Oh, we got crows. Make sure you retain these little plastic washers. Hold on to these, don't want to lose them there. Baggies are going to be your best friend. So we're going to take a screwdriver, there's a little slot in the rivet. We're going to stick this into the slot and twist and pop the rivet. There it is. Love this little rivet. Okay, to remove the fairing, just slide it forward off of the radiator bracket lip. Slide it forward off of the control box. Alright. I'm going to bring these indoors so they don't get stepped on. that slot in the rivet isn't in the line of sight, you can just rotate the head until you can see the slot. Now we gotta take the exhaust off. That should be fun. Alright, so we're on the right side of the bike. So the exhaust system is mounted with 2 screws. There's actually a nut and a screw. The nut is over here and here. Pretty straightforward. And there's one in here. You see that? Right there. Okay, so T-handle, you can get it out of there. You don't need to take the rear sets off. So, there we go. Alright, so ball end, hex key. Needle nose. Let's go, baby. There she is. Just got this. Oh, because I'm in the ghetto. So this is an alarmed disc brake lock. Kryptonite. That's not bad. 1 beep, it's armed. 2 beeps, it's disarmed. I like this because the pin is small enough to fit on my discs. Okay. Oh yeah, it's armed. Oh, the entropy. See, this is entropy. See that? Tools are spreading out. Alright, second law thermodynamics. Okay, so 5/16, so we're 8mm. We're going here. See that? Okay. Bada bing, bada bing. Okay. So you got a nut and a washer. Keep track of that. So the cap screw on the rear muffler is a little trickier. It's in here. Where is it? It's right here. Where's my finger? Alright, it's right here. See that thing? Doesn't look too bad until you realize the rear set's in the friggin' way. See that? So, what you can do is take your old-fashioned hex key. See that, baby? These aren't that tight. Watch me thread the needle here. Alright, we're in. Okay, that's all you gotta do. Bada boom. And now we're gonna take our ball end, hex key, we're just gonna back this thing out. Same as the other side. Come to me. Let's go. Ooh, you're coming with me. This is really hard to do while looking at the camera. Come on. Oh, good enough. Let's go. Get off of there. Alright, there's the bushing. Here we go. So I ran into a snag getting the exhaust off. So on the collector here, these screws basically turned to cheese. So the Allen key just spun when I tried to loosen them inside the socket. The other issue is someone used Loctite Red. I'm sure it wasn't the factory. You can see that there, which is more or less cyanoacrylate. It's basically super glue. I don't have a torch, and it doesn't matter. These were rounded out anyway. To get this off, I used a pair of vice grips and just stripped the head right off. So a lot of people have run into this problem when they try to, swap out the mufflers or the silencers. And what people were doing, like taking the rear subframe off and the heat shield, you don't need to do that. Basically, you just need to move it down and back a little bit and it'll come right off. To do that, you can release it here at this turnaround here for the vertical cylinder, and then you can release it right here at this joint, right off the downpipe for the horizontal cylinder. So I'll show you how to do that. So they're both retained with these little spring hooks. And to get the front one, that's pretty easy. You can get access to it right here. You can see that right there. Okay, so you can unclip this one here. And then you've got 2 retaining this joint here. So in this joint here, you've got a spring on this side and a spring on this side that's nestled between the heat shield and the pipe. This one's easy. You can just reach in here with a pair of needle nose, reach in here, pinch it, pull up, and unhook it. The one on the right side is a little trickier. You've got to go in under here, with a long screwdriver. Okay, and you want to get it right sort of against the spring, and then you're going to pry up against the swing arm, pull down and unhook it. It's pretty common that people need to remove this Y pipe with the silencers, because these screws of the coupler or this collector are corroded. You can't just slide the silencer assembly back, because this vertical section of the Y pipe contacts the relief, this swing arm relief. This is basically a big hole. And the side of the pipe contacts the side of the swing arm. So it gets stuck and you can't move it backwards enough to disconnect it here. So what you have to do is move up to this front joint, because this has a downward slope, so when you pull it back you're also moving downward, and that allows you to clear this recess in the swing arm back here. Then you've got to disconnect your oxygen sensor from the downpipe here. Alright, 17mm wrench. And it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's a right-hand thread. So you can disconnect the connector and then just spin it off. Okay, I'm just going to pull this thing back. And that's it. Off it comes. So there are 3 screws that retain the fan shroud. There's one here, one at this position on the other side, and then there's one under here. See this right here? And there's no room to get an Allen key in here. Alright? You can cut it if you want. I've done this before. It's a pain in the ass. So what you do, grab a pair of needle nose. As crude as this is, it's just, you're gonna save yourself time. Alright, pair of needle nose under here, grab it counterclockwise. It's not that tight, it comes right out.
There it is. Ba-boom.
On the left side, in order to get this shroud retaining screw out, you need to take this screw that holds the battery box out of here, because there's no room to fit a tool in here. So we'll do that next.
Let's go. 8mm.
So we have to pull the battery box away from the bike. We don't have to take it off the bike. We just have to pull it away. So it's another screw on this side, 8mm. And now we can get our tool behind the battery box to remove this frickin' screw. Alright, you see what I'm doing here? I've got the socket in the screw and I'm turning the screw. I'm trying to hold the battery box out of the way. You can take the battery out. I'm just not doing it. That's just like a whole other job. To get that battery right there with all of my connections on it. I'm not doing it. Okay, you out. Okay, we're off. Oh my god. This is the worst part, I'm telling you. There it is. I got some hose connections here. I remember my old remove your evap. There it is. I've got a video on that if you don't know how to remove your evap canister. I've got all my common sizes here. That's a thing of beauty right there, I'll tell you that. I'm not normally this disorganized, but I'm working remotely, so I apologize in advance. This is the best I can do. This bike is 10 years old, believe it or not. You gotta be gentle with all this crap. Are we ready to come down? We got some wires. Oh, we're done. So that's it. Okay? There's the fan shroud. That's a nice fan. That thing is run without any issues. No noises. Works perfectly. I've got that auxiliary switch to override the fan. I run that fan all the time. No issues with the fan. You know you can reuse zip ties, right? You just stick a screwdriver in here. Tiny little screwdriver, like an electronic screwdriver. And you can pop this pawl away from the ratchet strap. If you're a cheap bastard like me, you can reuse your zip ties. Kind of a pain in the nuts to separate the fan leads and the wiring harness, so I'm just going to attach this thing here, get it out of the way, and dangle like my balls when I'm sitting on the pot. Alright, so that's done. Out of the way, fine. It's not hitting the radiator. Alright, the next step will be to drain the oil and pull off the oil pan. That doesn't look too bad, huh? 44,000 miles, no runs, no drips. And there's the oil line there. Alright, so we're going to clean the undercarriage thoroughly here and get this oil pan nice and clean so we don't contaminate the lubrication system inside the motor when we pull the pan off, and also we don't get any junk or debris on the seal line when we go to reseal this. I'm just going to give it a quick cleaning, get some of the junk out of here, and then we'll wash this down when we're done degreasing. So to make life a little bit easier when we are removing and reinstalling the oil pan, we're going to remove the kickstand. You also can remove this chain shroud that's here. I usually don't because there's enough clearance. I'm just going to clean this out, and I'm going to zip tie it closed, just to give me a little bit more room. Alright, so to remove the kickstand, pretty easy. We've got these two sensor screws here. I'm just going to remove these. Now there are two screws that retain the kickstand. The socket head cap screws, we can pull these off. So there's our kickstand, we're going to clean that up. I'm going to tuck this out of the way. I'll zip tie this later. It's a good idea to periodically clean this junk out of your little chain shroud here because it's full of sand and all kinds of debris that can kind of prematurely wear your chain out. We want to make sure we get all this junk out of here because we don't want this to contaminate the oil pan gasket when we're reinstalling the oil pan. We cleaned up the oil pan. I think it's looking spick and span. Now we're going to drain the oil. Alright, we'll release the oil cap here. Not remove it, just loosen it. Alright, 14 millimeter. Inspect the drain plug. Some goodies there. Not too bad. Now we'll remove these two socket head cap screws that retain the oil filter cover. Now I've built myself a little fun slide made out of aluminum foil so that the oil will drain into the pan and not all over the oil pan. This is kind of an easy way to remove your oil filter cap. Just grab a couple pairs of needle nose or needle nose vice grips, put them in the cover eyelets, give it a yank. There we go. Always fun. Stick the screwdriver in there, depress the seal, grab the lip of the filter cartridge and just pull it right out. Yeah, look at that. Oh baby. Look at that. I like to take a towel and clean out all the residual goodies that are in here. Alright, got our new oil filter. We're going to put the side with the hole in it towards the inside of the motor. Okay, in we go. Alright, I'm going to seat it on the lug at the bottom. Boom, it's in. We put our new O-ring seals on the filter cap. I usually change them out every other oil change, and they're usually good. You can swap them out every oil change, but they'll last a good 7,500 miles, no issues. I like to put a little fresh oil on the O-rings before installing the cap, just to make it a little bit easier to install, get a good seal.
It's a pretty snug fit. So you don't want to use the screws to drive the cap in, because you'll strip out the holes in the engine case and then you'll have all kinds of problems. Make sure that cap is flush against the engine case. Holes are lined up. I'm good to go. I like to put a little Loctite on these cap screws so they won't come out. If you watch any of my older videos, you remember when I was in San Francisco, this cap blew off at like 60 miles an hour while I was passing someone. Dumped all the oil all over the road in about, I don't know, 5 seconds. Alright, so this just happened. No, it's just oil. Is it the cover? Oil filter? Yep, the fucking oil filter cover. I was lucky to get out of that. Man, look at that slick. Holy fudge. Thank God for traction control. Because somebody at the dealership who changed the oil under the service contract probably used the cap screws to drive the cover against the case and stripped it out. So I had to step up to a larger thread size, so these are not the original cap screws. I had to drill out the old holes and retap. I'm going to use a torque wrench. So I'm actually using a different torque setting. You can look in the manual what the torque setting is. I actually usually start out at about half of the specified torque and go up from there.
So, now the part you've all been looking forward to. I'm going to remove the oil pan. So, made myself a little template here just so I can track the screws. So this is the oil pan mounting periphery, forward, back, right, left. 8mm socket. Okay, 8mm. These are right-hand thread. Put it in our little template here. Our little gauge. See that? Oh, that's nice. Look at that.
That was all crusty with. It was crusty with all sorts of friggin' thread lock on there. Look at that thing. Oh, I'm jealous of that template. Tap this oil pan loose with a rubber mallet. Let's see, buddy. Oh, there we go. See right there? It's starting to come out. So that's it. I'm just going to gently start prying this thing loose here. Shall we? Okay. I like to try to preserve as much of this seal as I can because I want to see how the seal was put on. I see the bond line. Here's the pickup tube. That's the inside of that. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, so we've got one 8mm hex cap screw that's retaining this pickup body. Alright. We have some dribbly drops here. Okay. There it goes.
Alright, we're going to take a look down in here and see what the mesh looks like. This looks pretty good. You can see that? Let's look at the mesh. The mesh. Got some goodies in there.
Alright, so before we go any further here, what I wanted to show you is just how much slop there is in the mating between the oil sump and the engine case. There are no alignment pins here. So basically you have just the clearance between the screw and the hole. And so I measured the allowance between the hole and the screw, and it's about 50 thousandths on the diameter, about 25 thousandths on the radius. So that means you're going to have 25 thousandths of slop in all directions. And you've only got a gasket width here of 200 thousandths, so that's like, what, 13% of your gasket or your bond line is going to be lost in slop. So what Ducati does is they use a couple of alignment studs. So they have pins that are threaded that pick up on these hole locations in the corners. If you look at the manual, you can see it in the assembly jig for the motor. When I assemble this, now you can see how much this thing floats. The slop in all directions. You can see the gap here. It's not very good. Get the camera up closer, you can see that. See that? That's a lot of slop. That's what you're going to be running into if you don't use any kind of a guide pin. So what you could do is you could buy a 6mm shoulder bolt that's got an 8mm shoulder, and you could turn that down to like 280 thousandths, which is the diameter of this hole. Let me briefly interrupt the fancy animal here. I called around to the local Ducati dealerships, a couple here in LA, and I called AMS Ducati in Texas. They're one of the largest Ducati dealers in the nation. I had them check with their shop guys, and they do not have a part number for these oil sump locating pins. Furthermore, the locating pins are not included in the Ducati engine service kit that is provided to the dealerships from Ducati. And the Ducati personnel also noted that they do not use any alignment pins in mating the oil pan with the engine case, and they just basically mate the two halves without any method of alignment. Maybe an experienced tech would have no issues with this, but I do not recommend doing that unless you want to get leaks because you're losing about 25% of the gasket sealing surface in doing so. So we have a couple of options here at our disposal, one of which is to use a shoulder bolt. If you don't know what a shoulder bolt is, it's different from a bolt with a long shoulder. It's actually a precision ground dowel pin that also has a set of threads that are precisely located at the end of the dowel pin, both in concentricity and cylindricity. So dimensionally, it's a very precise dowel pin with some threads on the end. So you can get that shoulder screw at McMaster-Carr here, and I'll show you. Okay, so the existing threaded holes in the engine case that receive the oil pan are M6 by 1 millimeter. Alright, so you can see here on the left, you can select all the different dimensional parameters for your shoulder bolt. We're going to use an M6 by 1. I chose 40 millimeters long, so you've got plenty of closing length to align the oil sump pan with the engine case. And what we need is roughly a 7 millimeter diameter shoulder, because that's roughly the hole size in the oil pan. But they don't make that, they only make an 8 millimeter diameter shoulder. So what we're going to have to do is turn that 8 millimeter shoulder down. And I selected stainless steel here. This is an 18-8 300 series stainless, which makes that relatively easy on a lathe. And then McMaster-Carr also gives you the ability to download a solid model. So let's go ahead and download the model, because we're going to have to rework this shoulder bolt. Bring it into SolidWorks and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we have this 8 millimeter shoulder. We're going to turn that down to 7 roughly. What I did is I measured the sump inner hole diameters. They were about 280-ish thousandths, so 280, 285. And I subtracted 15 thousandths from that, so that gave me a nominal dimension of 270 thousandths. So I removed about a millimeter of material, about 40 thousandths of material, to get it down to between 265 to 270 thousandths. So that's what you can do, and it's 40 millimeters long, so that'll give you plenty of stroke when you're aligning the oil sump. You basically screw these in, and then you'll have plenty of movement up and down to mate the oil sump to the
engine case. There's going to be some variance between parts, so just get a set of digital calipers and measure the inside diameter of the holes that are in the oil sump or the oil pan, and then just subtract 15 thousandths from the diameter. And then that dimension will become the final dimension of the shoulder on your shoulder screw. And then you can subtract about 5 thousandths to give yourself a tolerance. So in this case, my nominal dimension was 270 thousandths, and then I have a lower tolerance of 265 thousandths. And I've made an engineering drawing here of the finished shoulder screw. If you want to bring that to a machine shop, you can just cross out my dimensions here for the shoulder diameter and fill in what your measured dimensions were. And if you can't afford to bring this to a machine shop, you can take it to a local vocational school, high school, or college, and a lot of the times the students will do it for you for nothing, or maybe they'll charge a few bucks. But the kids can use the experience, so that's one option. Okay, option 2 is we get some heat shrink tubing, and again from McMaster-Carr. This happens to be about 20 thousandths wall thickness after it shrinks. So what you can do is you can slip that heat shrink tubing over the screw shoulder and then shrink that down, and what that will do is it will add about 40 thousandths to the diameter of the shoulder on the existing oil sump screw, and that'll take up any slop in the oil pan mating. So those are your two options. I opted for the heat shrink tubing method. While not ideal, it's what I had at my disposal. All of the tool rooms I have access to are back on the East Coast, so that's what I opted for, and I'll leave that decision up to you. So I took some heat shrink tubing with about a 20 thousandths wall. That's gonna take up the slop and the clearance, so it's gonna be about a 5 thousandths allowance. That's perfect. So what I'm gonna do is you can see here I've got two of them, one in each corner. And so when I assemble this, let's say I've got the gasket on here and it's wet, so I got to be careful not to contact the two surfaces together. I'm just going to thread these in a little bit until they start, until there's enough thread engagement there. One in each corner. And then I'm going to walk this cover in with the screws. So using that shim on the shoulder of the screw, you can see there's almost no slop in that. It's pretty good. It's only about 5 thousandths worth of slop. Alright, now we're going to clean the residual RTV off of the engine side of the oil pan gasket. I like to use an old credit card. I got my Ralph's card here, my Ralph's discount card, plastic razor blade, and then I've got some fine Scotch-Brite and some other incidental things here. Pretty simple process. I don't use gloves when I do this, just so that I can get a feel for... So I can actually feel the gasket surface here. I believe they put a coating on this surface to promote better adhesion, better sealing. So you really don't want to go too rough with any kind of abrasive. This is pretty fine Scotch-Brite, so I'll just lightly sand that. I've got a plastic razor blade. I actually find the dies used to cut these cheap little cards are pretty rough, so they leave some nice sharp edges in the plastic that work actually better than the plastic razor blades. So we're just going to remove this. You can see that coming off there. You can just feel it. If it feels rubbery, take it off. So a little helpful tip here. This is a crosshatch pattern with the facing mill, which is actually pretty rough, and it's done on purpose. It's to promote mechanical interlocking of the adhesive this direction diagonally. So what you want to do is, when you're all done with your razor blade, I'd like to take a fine Scotch-Brite pad and actually will just lightly rub in this direction, and it really cleans out any residual RTV that's in here, stuck in between this crosshatch. Otherwise it's going to be trapped in there and you're not going to get a good bond. There is gasket around this little pocket here, so when you reseal this, make sure you do apply gasket to this little pocket. You can see that coming right off with the card. See that? That's really well. If you ever seen The Big Lebowski, the opening scene is the dude walking through Ralph's in his friggin' bathrobe. Oh yeah, I know that Ralph's is. in Malibu. See this right here? The two case halves are joined with RTV. So this is the black. This is the 1205. I want to be sure to get any drips and runs out of here so it doesn't interfere or contaminate the gasket when I apply the RTV. We don't want to use a steel razor blade because we run the risk of scratching the sealing surface. Okay, so this is what our gasket surface should look like when we're done. Should be nice and clean, nice and shiny. Shouldn't have any residual RTV on here. Alright, we'll get everything out of the nooks and crannies. So we want to get any potential contaminants out of all of the nooks and crannies so that they don't contaminate the sealing surface. If you've got a parts washer, even better. Oh, I don't have one. So you do not need to replace the pickup body and the screen every other oil change. You can just clean it out with some compressed air. And that's all you really need to do. Just make sure that you buy a new O-ring seal because the new mesh body, pickup body, whatever you want to call this thing, will not come with an O-ring, of course, sold separately. Alright, so we got our old pickup body here. Let's take a look at the mesh. Some goodies on there. See that? Oh, there's some goodies. Let's take a look at the other end here. It's been 15,000 miles. I think the last time this thing was cleaned was at 30,000 when I did the valve adjustment. Look at the new one here. Oh yeah, thing's brandy new, huh? Look at that. Alright, now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to install our new oil pump pickup body. There she is. I'm going to use the original screw. We're going to grease the O-ring here. Use some assembly lube. Okay, do not use grease. Assembly lube dissolves in the oil bath. Okay. Put our seal on here. Alright, I'm going to make sure this is nice and clean. Apply a little bit of assembly lube to the lip. Now we'll install the pickup body. Make sure it's fully seated. Make sure our screw is nice and clean here. Apply a little Loctite to the screw. Okay. Insert our screw. Just snug it up. I'm going to check it to make sure it's fully seated. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to torque this screw to 10 Newton meters. I'm actually torquing this to 8 Newton meters. Going to make sure we don't have any issues here. And then I'll go to 10. Here's 8. We do not want to strip this threaded hole. That would not be good. It says 9 to 11, but we're going to do 10. So that's 9. There's 10. Alright, now we're going to prep this surface with alcohol. Okay, the surface is ready to go. So this is gray. This is the Ducati bond. You want to make sure that you wash out this oil sump because you're going to have all kinds of little RTV inside the oil pan. So make sure you clean it out thoroughly. Just going to prep this gasket surface. Use a little acetone to lift any residual RTV. Give myself a little box here, flatten this out. Take a little alcohol.
Alright, that looks pretty good. And now we have our Ducati 3 Bond 1215. This is the gray. There's also a black. Black is higher temperature. You've got 30 minutes of working time with this, 24-hour cure time. So it gels in about 30 minutes. The data sheet says once you apply the gasket maker, you should mate your two parts immediately, but you've got 30 minutes. So I've actually cut my tube here. Cut a little more off. My nozzle looks pretty good. This stuff is liquidy, huh? Yeah. That's pretty good. See that whole size there? That's pretty good. Let's do this. Start. Alright, how are we looking there? So, 1 and 2 are mounting screws. I'll apply a little Loctite to that. Alright, here we go. Put in our 2 alignment screws. Okay. Alright, I'll put the rest of the screws in here. So, from the Ducati shop manual, here is the tightening order. I've written it down here so I can remember it. I'm going to torque these screws to 13 Newton meters or 9.6 foot-pounds. 13 Newton meters. Alright, so there's our oil sump in place. Looking pretty good. Oh, we're out of juice. It's always out of juice. Alright, we're going to torque our drain lug. It's 14 Newton meters. We're going to start at 10. I always like to start low because I don't want to strip the pan. Okay. I got a couple of oil drops there. Alright, new pressure washer on the drain lug. Okay. The manual calls out 14 Newton meters. We're going to start at 10.
because obviously we don't want to strip the oil pan threads. Okay, 10. I always like to do this with threads that have been cycled a number of times, because they do wear out. Cut threads do wear out. Rolled threads tend to last longer. Now we're going to add our oil, but before we do anything, we're going to clean around our filler cap, because there's always junk in here, sand and all kinds of crud. Cap nice and clean. Get the junk out of the O-ring seal here. Then what I like to do is take a nice clean paper towel, stuff it in the hole. Oh yeah, stuff it in the hole. Alright, a couple of turns there, and then I like to clean the junk. It's hiding in the nooks and crannies here. There's always sand and stuff in here. If you're not careful, it will go into the engine. Alright, pull that out of there. Look at our funnel, it's nice and clean. Alright, 15W50, I use Mobile 1. I've been using Mobile 1 from the beginning. Some people like to use the Mo tool, but this has been fine. So 3.7 liters, 1 liter is 1.06 quarts, so that's like 3.9 quarts, just shy of 4. Alrighty, and there's the Mobile 1. Okay. You know the filler port isn't clean when you hear some crunching when you tighten this thing down. Alright, I've cleaned up my kickstand here. Look at that thing. Alright, it looks good, even the screws. So, I'm going to install this. Kick sensor. Got some goodies there. Let's look at those goodies. No goodies allowed. I like to clean everything as I reassemble. This comes up here. Neck. Looks good. Now for the moment I've been dreading. Installing the fan shroud. This fucking thing. If you're wondering what this white stuff is, it's 2-part epoxy adhesive, because I had a crack in my fan shroud. Alright, now the last screw here. And thing. I actually have this on the clutch just in case it grabs. Break. Definitely through. Now we're through. Bada bing, bada boom.
Alright, let's install our exhaust. You can see I've got my new fastener here. That's in M5 by 0.8 by 20. We're just about there. This is almost impossible to capture here, but what I had to do is release the 2 springs on this upper loop. So I've got those 2 loops, one there on the left, one there on the right. I had to release those so that this could move. So now I have some adjustment in this, some rotation to pull this whole turnaround towards the back of the bike to line up. You can see it there. Pain in the butt, but yeah, it's almost in. You can kind of see it there. You can see it joined. So that's what I'm trying to do right here. So I got it on there, and now I'm gonna snug it up and put the springs on. So I believe it goes here. Okay. So we got this spring in, this spring in. Just got, let's see if we can get that to focus. Just got this one in here. You gotta kind of reach your hand down here into the abyss to find the eyelet at the bottom. Now we've got to do the other side. It's attached on the right. Can I point to it? Yeah, it's right in here. So I've got to hook it down the bottom here. What I've done is I've tied a slip knot around the bottom end of the spring. See that? And that string goes through the exhaust into my hand right here. So I pull the string down and I can line it up. See? There's the loop I'm trying to get into. So there's the eyelet I'm trying to get into right here. Oh yeah, see that? Well, I can't do this with another hand, so you know, I'm gonna push it over with a screwdriver and hook it onto that little eyelet right there. There it is. See, pull this down. Ooh, it's close. Alright, I gotta get a screwdriver and push it over. See that? I hooked it. Yeah. Now I'm gonna cut the rope somehow. Okay, it's on there. Oh yeah. Oh frickin' yeah. Do the other side. Loctite here. So now we're going to put in the rear exhaust mounting screw with our little ball end hex key. Okay, this screw is going in there. There's the hole. Put it in the hole, Rob. Come on. Go down, then push it up, and then it should go. Come on. Oh, it's in. Okay, ball end. Okay. You have to go in here. The hole is above the chain, in here. Right there. See that? And everything is in the way. The rear sets are in the way. So we're just going to use our ball end hex key here and wish me luck. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to turn this thing here. Alright. Alright, now we'll reattach the oxygen sensor here. Come on, baby. Alright, 17mm wrench. And just snug this down. Doesn't have to be super tight. Now we can connect this. Battery box. Yeah, let's go. Putting in the screw with the battery terminal. Alright, you we have spark. That wasn't too bad. Alright, let's snap this in. Okay. Alright, put the fairings on. I think we're done. Okay, I'm gonna give it a test here. See what happens. Get up to full operating temperature here, which is about 180, 185 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll shut the bike off, let it cool down. So basically we'll go through one heat cycle, you know, expansion, contraction, and we'll see if we got any leaks once it's cooled down. This is the bike path I go on every day. Nice little bike path here. This place on the right is the General Motors Design Studio right here. Yoink. Yoink. Okay. Well, there's our test run. Alright, now we'll install our fairing. So far, after one heat cycle, no drips or runs, no leaks. That's good, that's good. It's a little spit trick here. Alright, so first things first. We'll start forward, hook the back. Slide it back, we're in. Make sure we get it into the lip before we pull it back. Okay. Snap in our little plastic rivet. I like to orient this little notch here facing out so I can get the screwdriver under it when I take it out. Okay, so yeah, the other side. So the longest of these shoulder bolts goes up front. This is my little bag of extra fairing goodies. Anytime you go to the dealer, anytime you're there, just pick up a bunch of plastic washers and fairing screws, because you're always losing them. Alright, and with that we're done. Let's just clean her down. Take a little Meguiar's Ultimate Quick Detailer. Oh yeah. This is good stuff. It's like a spray wax cleaner in one. You can use it on plastic, use it on glass, anything. Use it on your mirrors, anything, kid. Oh, it works. Make sure we clean our fork tubes here. All kinds of junk gets adhered to this and can screw up your, not only your dust seals, but your oil seals. So you should periodically clean those every couple of rides. You can feel the junk back here. If you run your hands back there, oh, you can feel it. Oh yeah, you're jealous of those stickers. Oh, you can get them. If you look at the bottom of my YouTube videos there, description section of my YouTube videos, you can order stickers, t-shirts, whatever you want. Help support the animal. Oh yeah. Oh, so that's it.
Then again, you got a quick shifter, so, and these cylinders only have, I think, one piston seal. So that guy's flying into the hole. A lot of people are getting stranded.